Hey friends, welcome to the channel. I'm Ken Smith and I am here to share with you 6 must-dos before you buy your first Model A. If you're thinking about buying a Model A, this is the video you want to watch. So let's get at it. Friends, this is what I'm going to tell you. Right from Jump Street, do your research. I can't stress this enough. Know everything there is about owning a Model A. Know everything. And then once you've learned everything, do some more research. Now, the reason why I tell you this, it's really simple. Without really truly understanding what you're going to be investing in, you have absolutely no idea in regards to the restoration and what has been done, what should have been done, how it could have been done. You just really need to do a tremendous amount of research. Now, some of those things can include going to car shows. They can include going to swap meets. They should include going to Model A clubs and visiting the clubs and any events that the clubs in your area might be putting on. Once you're familiar with a club, maybe even join that club. And I would suggest and encourage you to join a club that is exceptionally active. There's a lot of Model A clubs out there that are more along the lines, and I don't say this to be mean, but it's the reality, more along the lines of get together once a month, have a bite to eat, and it's a social event. But there's really not a lot of active owners that are driving their vehicles, touring their vehicles, or working on their vehicles. And there's the key. For you to really get a good understanding of what's involved in owning a Model A, you got to get in it up to your elbows. And the only way that you're going to do that is by getting into a club that's very knowledgeable and very involved. And so I encourage you to do that. The other thing that I will highly recommend is that once you're in a club and really familiar with a club, sit in a Model A because they're all different. I can tell you firsthand, I'm kind of a big guy. And I jokingly tell people that I'm a 3XL slim, but the reality is I'm a big guy. I'm 6 foot and currently sporting about 262 pounds, which is nothing to brag about by any means. But the reality is I'm not fitting in a 29 pickup. It's just not going to happen. It's not going to be a comfortable ride for me. And I've actually interviewed guys that are 6'1", 6'2", and they're slim. And getting in a 28, 29 closed cab pickup is not fun for them. And I've sat in a Roadster, and it's not fun. And so I was really limited as to the type of vehicle that I could even fit in comfortably and feel like, hey, I could drive this for a couple hundred miles. And so I highly recommend that you sit in a vehicle. If you're married, get your spouse involved in this. Get her to sit inside a vehicle. Not only in the passenger seat, get her to sit in the driver's seat as well. You both need to be comfortable in a vehicle, and the only way that you're going to know for sure is to sit in one. And then I'd go one step further. If you're involved in a club and you've got some relationships that are established, go for a ride. And I'm not talking about a ride around the block. Go for a ride. Spend a day in a Model A and really experience that and ask yourself, hey, could I drive this car, 100 miles? Could I drive this car 150, 250? Could I drive this car 350 miles in one day, which is what I've done with my Model A. And so those are all the important things that I think you need to do right out of right out of the saddle, do research. Number 2. All right, here's where I'm going to rub some people, but I'm going to put it out there, and if I offend you, I'm not trying to offend you, but at the same token, I'm just going to speak from my own personal view and my own experience, okay? And that is, make sure you have a title with a state-approved VIN tag on the vehicle. All right, let me repeat that. Make sure you have a title with a state-approved VIN tag. Now, let me explain to you why. Here in the state of Tennessee, for $10, fill out an application and get a state-approved VIN tag that I can attach to the firewall of my vehicle. Now, the Model A, simply put, has a VIN on only 2 locations. The first location being the engine block, the second location being on the frame. Chances are you probably are looking at a Model A that may not have the original motor. It may have a rebuilt motor, and it came from another Model A. It might now have the Burt's motor. And while some manufacturers or some engine builders, I should say, of the Burt's block are stamping, other engine builders may not be stamping. And so you have that to contend with. The point I'm trying to make is that on the title, the VIN is on, should match the engine block and should match the engine frame. Well, the engine frame, that's a different story, because where that's located at is under the body. And the only way you're going to get to it is where I show you right here. All right, so I'm kind of giving you a live view of where the VIN number would be, just so that you can kind of get an idea. This is where the firewall attaches through the frame, right through here. So that VIN tag is located underneath the body. The only way that you're going to be able to see that VIN that's stamped into the frame is that you have to lift the body up. There's no other way that you're going to be able to see that VIN. Now, the other place that a VIN could be is right here on the block. And since this engine has been replaced, that VIN number is actually incorrect. Now, I could easily lift this up and show you here, but I got to be honest with you, just for the sake of, I don't want my VIN being out there on the general public, so I'm not going to show you my actual VIN number. But it's stamped into the frame right in this area right here. So now you see how that can be a real issue, because chances are you're not going to be lifting the body to verify the VIN. And how else do you verify the VIN if you can't lift the body? So therein lies this debacle. Well, here in the state of Tennessee, for $10, I can purchase a state-approved VIN tag. $10. That's it. And it solves a whole lot of problems. Now, it may not solve every problem in every state, but here's what I'm going to tell you. From my own personal experience, when I moved from Indiana to Colorado, I had to have all of our vehicles inspected. When I purchased a vehicle in Arizona and brought it up to Colorado, I had to have that VIN number inspected. And the only place that you can get a VIN number inspected in the state of Colorado, unless this has changed since I've relocated, is from a police inspection. Now, that can be done by some local police or law enforcement. State troopers can also inspect the VIN, but they're going to be looking in one of 2 places: the engine block or the frame. And you got a problem if the engine block isn't matching the title. You got a bigger problem if someone insists that they have to see a VIN on the frame or on the body. And that that $10 that you spend, at least here in the state of Tennessee, is gold when it comes time for you to sell your Model A. And there's the bigger problem that I see. People don't have enough foresight and enough future forward thinking to realize that, hey, what happens in the event that I die and and my wife or my spouse has to get rid of this Model A, and they can't do it because somebody in Colorado or somebody in California can't verify the VIN. And I'm just using California as an example. I know it's a very tough state. And again, I don't have any experience in living in California or any other state other than Colorado and Tennessee. But I can tell you this. Why would you want to go through that grief, especially here in Tennessee, when for $10 you can get a state-approved VIN tag? So why mess with that? So my suggestion to you, simply put, whatever state you're in, if you can get a state-approved VIN tag that you can attach to your firewall and the state says that's authorized, it's going to make it a lot easier when it comes time for you to sell that vehicle. Now, here's the last thing I'm going to say about this. I don't care what kind of shape you find a Model A in. I don't care what kind of bargain you find a Model A in. If it doesn't come with a title, sorry, but that's how I feel. Anybody who is worth their salt, in my opinion, is going to take a little bit of time and get a title for a vehicle if they've got it. And if they don't have a title for a vehicle, to me, there's just way too many red flags pointing that indicate, hey, I got this possibly out of a barn and I'm just flipping it to make some fast cash and don't really know any history, which is going to segue into our next point. But the bottom line is this. I think, for me personally, if there's no title, there's no deal. All righty, number 3, and this is a big one. Get the car inspected. And this is what I mean by getting the car inspected. Find someone who can give you a thorough inspection of the Model A that you're interested in purchasing. Once you've gotten to that place where you feel comfortable that you've done enough research, you feel comfortable that you've got a title with a state-approved VIN tag or some form of state approval that the VIN has actually been inspected, now it's time to make a purchase or consider a purchase. You need to get the car inspected. So get someone who can give you a full and honest inspection of the car. And that includes not only just the mechanical aspects of things, but the restoration. And if the car has been restored, how has it been restored? And I'm going to get a little bit into detail about that, but get someone to give you a full inspection of the vehicle. That person should not be your best friend. It should be someone who can separate themselves emotionally from the vehicle that they are inspecting, and they can set themselves emotionally separate from you as well. Now, the owner should be willing to allow you to do that. And if the owner isn't, I'd be very hesitant on purchasing a vehicle. What happens if the vehicle is out of state and you can't get to it? You're trying to make a purchase and you're trying to do it online. I would look at some form of inspection that can be done there. Or if you're purchasing your vehicle from some online auctioneer or some online platform that gives you 7 to 10 days to get over there and inspect the vehicle, hey, is a flight ticket worth it? Are 2 flight tickets worth it? Fly someone that you can trust and have them go out and take a look at the vehicle with you. I mean, this is an investment. And if I was going to spend $10,000, $15,000 on a car, what's a flight ticket and a hotel bill? And what's the worst case scenario if you reach out to another Model A club and even have to pay somebody to come out and inspect that car? And maybe they can give you a thorough inspection of that car that you can trust and not have to fly out there to see it. I would really seriously look at getting the car inspected. Don't you be the one that inspects the first Model A that you're looking to buy, because that's the mistake I made. And there were a lot of things that if I had to do it all over again, I guarantee you bringing someone or getting someone involved in the inspection of the car would have definitely been very helpful for me. Now, I've owned a lot of classic cars, and I spent the majority of my classic car ownership in muscle cars from the late 60s and early 70s. So I was really familiar with what I was looking at. But a Model A, that was a whole different animal. And what I thought I knew about an automobile, I was absolutely drowning by the time I got this car home and started really getting into it. So again, make sure that you've got someone very knowledgeable who can give you a thorough, honest inspection and evaluation of the car. And I would tell you this, like I said earlier with the state approved VIN tag, and make sure that you can get that, I'd walk away. If you couldn't get the state approved VIN tag, I'd walk away from the car without hesitation or regrets. And I'd do the same thing with an inspection. I'd walk away from the car. If you're not thoroughly happy with the results of the inspection, walk away from it. No harm, no foul. You're out a flight ticket. You're out the expense of getting the car inspected. That's nothing compared to what you could be stuck with in tens of thousands of dollars of repairs that you had no idea you were going to have to do. Friends, this brings me to number 4, and that is pedigree. Now, here's what I mean by pedigree. You're buying a restored car. And if you're not buying a restored car, I'd still listen to this. You're buying a restored car. Someone says it's been restored. Well, who did it? And I would be asking tough questions like that. Who restored the car? And if they say they restored it, well, show me. Show me receipts. Show me how it was restored. I want to see before, during, and after restorations. If it was restored professionally, then the professional restorer should be taking plenty of photos and sending it to that individual. So again, before, during, and after photos really anchors what's been done or not done to the vehicle. Now, I can assure you that if someone restored a vehicle, they should be very proud of the restoration process. And if they don't provide those types of photos, man, I'd run away. I wouldn't walk away, I'd run away. Because there's just too many things that I have seen over the years that would just make the hair on the back of my neck stand up. I've seen people put 90-weight gear lube in a crankcase to hide a rod knock. And yeah, it'll hide a rod knock right up until the point you go to drain that 90-weight gear lube out, and then guess what happens? I've seen people put metal shavings from brake lace into Bondo so that a magnet would stick to it so that they could hide all of the holes that should have been filled properly with sheet metal. So don't put anything past anyone. Keep an honest person honest. Hold them accountable and ask for before, during, and after photos of anything and everything that they say they've restored. Get receipts to verify anything. The bottom line is this: if it's an older restoration and somebody's selling that car and they don't have a copy of the pedigree, I'd walk away. In fact, I'd run. I would not buy an older restoration that somebody else is selling that they don't have any documentation or any support that it's actually been done. And so there's plenty of cars out there. Pay the good money and get something that you know and can confirm that it's been restored properly. Now, if you're looking at investing in an unrestored vehicle, there's a few things that you need to take into consideration too. One, all Model A's aren't created equal. So make sure you understand exactly what it's going to cost for you to buy sheet metal, if you need to buy the sheet metal to replace rusted out sheet metal, and you don't have the ability to be able to form it yourself. Know the cost involved. Know that you can get those parts because not all pieces are available for all Model A's. So again, need to do a lot of research here for an unrestored vehicle. Know what it's going to cost you mechanically. Know what it's going to cost you professionally if you don't have the skills to rebuild a motor or transmission or a rear end or a chassis or body work and paint or interior. Know what those costs are going to be to have somebody professionally do it. Know what those costs are going to be if you need to purchase it. For example, currently right now, there's only one company in the United States that's making interior kits, and they're running 6 to 9 months backlog. And so know those costs. There's only a few companies that are making wood. And again, they're running backlogs. And all wood kits are not created equal, and all wood kits are not the same price. A full wood body kit for a 4-door was over $7,000 when I priced one. So again, know what it's going to cost to restore an unrestored Model A. All right, let's talk about insurance for a second. It's very easy for you to underinsure your car. Now, I'm not going to sit there and tell you who you should go through. What I am going to tell you is simply this. Not all insurance companies are created equal. So you got to take the time and do the research. If you're really driving a car like I drive my Model A, it's very easy for you to put on 3, 4, 5,000 miles in the course of a year. If you're driving it to and from work, that's really a daily driver. And how you insure that is different as well. And so you really need to take the time to see exactly how you plan on using your vehicle and insure it according to those needs. Then there's maintenance. That's right. A Model A takes a lot of maintenance. This is not your typical muscle car from the 60s. This is not your daily driver that you may own. This is a Model A, and there are maintenance interviews with every 500 miles. So you need to also have the ability to be able to do that maintenance. And if you don't, where are you going to get that done? Are you going to be able to learn that? Are you going to be able to physically do that? Or are you going to have to pay someone to do that? These are all the questions that you need to ask yourself. Hey, do I have the ability to perform the maintenance on this vehicle? There's a lot of maintenance that needs to happen with a Model A, and you're going to be broke pretty fast if you've got to pay somebody to maintain the car. So highly encourage you. Again, you'll learn this by hanging around at your local Model A club, but understand that there's a lot of maintenance that needs to be done to a Model A. So be prepared for that. Hey, owning a Model A is not daunting. It's really fun. I didn't want to scare you, but trust me, these 6 important steps are a must if you want to buy a Model A and enjoy it right out of the chute. So hope you enjoyed the video. Have a wonderful day, but most of all, be blessed.